Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
What you're hearing is Hardie Fiber Cement Siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardie knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardie products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardie.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. GCOPnet.com is where you can find them. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And fired up that you're starting your work week out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We got lots to get to, as is usually the case here on a Monday after a weekend. LSU basketball loses to Alabama. We'll talk about it. The championship games in the National Football League were decided yesterday, unfortunately, for those of us pulling for the Washington Commanders. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later. I was able to get to the box yesterday, got some reaction to the scrimmage in the first weekend that was for LSU baseball as they get ready for the opener in about 3 weeks. Elijah Haven, number one player in the country, number one quarterback in the country by some sites right here in Baton Rouge as a sophomore at the Dunham School, has a new NIL deal. We'll talk about that in hour number 2. So tons and tons to get to over the next couple of hours. Lock it in, like us in, wherever you may be. We'll start today the same way we start every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, the Saints now are the only team in the NFL without a head coach. I'm not actually 100% certain as I sit here that Dallas has introduced their new head coach, but we understand where things are. The Saints are the only team, honestly, left searching for a head coach. We got news over the weekend that Joe Brady said thanks, but no thanks. We feel like Cliff Kingsbury has echoed that, although we're not 100% certain. Maybe the Saints can make that happen. Kellen Moore's name jumped up into the list. It's been reported that the Saints will fly to Philadelphia to meet with Kellen Moore today. He's got some business to attend to, coincidentally, in New Orleans in 2 weeks. But the Saints will talk to the Eagles offensive coordinator before he prepares for the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Certainly Darren Rizzi's name still very much in play. Anthony Weaver's name still in play. Mike Kafka's name still in play. A lot going on. And in the general sentiment over the weekend, when the report was issued that Joe Brady would not come to an interview and that Aaron Glenn did not come interview, and that those are two that have actually spent time in New Orleans and didn't even take the time to try to see what it was about in the Crescent City, everyone said, well, this is a disaster. And I'm not here to tell you that it's not. I don't know enough about those conversations to give a final take on that. Here is what I will say. I don't really care about the process in a coaching search. That applies to the Saints head coach, the Saints offensive coordinator. That applies to LSU's football coach or the women's basketball coach. That applies to any coaching search, period. The process is not all that interesting to me. The result is what's interesting. That sounds obvious, but a better way to say it is I'm not that concerned with the optics, because I've seen really, really poorly run coaching searches from the outside yield a positive result, and I've seen buttoned up operations absolutely whiff. You can go across all sports for that. I'm not that interested in it. Yes, I will sit here right now on this Monday and say, it doesn't look great for New Orleans. But at the same time, that doesn't mean they can't get the right head coach. Here's a fact. Whoever gets this job, it's going to be a tough one. And that is the position that New Orleans put itself in because of a few years of mismanagement. This was going to be a difficult job for Mike McCarthy, for Darren Rizzi, for Aaron Glenn. This would be a difficult job for Andy Reid. Are we in agreement that Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL right now? And pick your name. You want to talk about Sean McVay? You want to do Kyle Shanahan? You want to go with Mike Tomlin? You want to go with Andy Reid? I don't really care who you go with. Whoever you brought in to run this operation for the next 2 years, it's going to be really difficult. And that has put you in a difficult spot as far as hiring a coach. I don't think that is a difficult thing to reason. What I would suggest, though, is that let's just see what the result is. That's more interesting than me. It would be easy for me to sit here and play talking head and rant and rave and go nuts about how the organization is in the dumpster and Loomis is a disaster and the Saints look like fools and they're the laughingstock of the NFL, and I could go on, and that'd probably be a great radio segment. But the fact of the matter is that I don't feel that way. I feel like it's a hard job. I feel like the Saints are not rushing to anything. I feel like they have some candidates on the table. They need to talk to everybody and try to make the best decision they can for the future of the organization. And I'm not here to just sit here and cast aspersions or laugh and point. It's just, that's not the way that I'm wired, and that's not the way I think about this. I think the Saints head coaching job is a tough job. I think the optics are not very good after this weekend. I don't think that means that the franchise is doomed for the next decade. They've got to figure out who's got the chops to come into a locker room that's aging, that's got expensive players, that's going to have to go through probably one more really tough season, and then start to see the light on the other side. And you've got to find the guy who's capable of emerging on the other side of it. That's what you're looking for. Now, hopefully, and we'll never know this because Mickey Loomis is not going to say anything in a press conference. What he does say on the record doesn't reflect this. What we have to hope is that the Saints do understand that they're in a tough spot, and they do understand they need a certain personality type to come in, take some lumps early, and try to get this thing up off the ground. It's a comparison we have made far too often, but it just makes too much sense not to compare it to what Detroit has done over the last 3 seasons. Remember, Dan Campbell got off to a terrible start, but it's easy now to look back and say that's a guy who's okay with that because he's going to connect with the players, because he's going to be a positive influence, because he's going to do and say all the right things, and then you got to trust him to put the right guys around, and then you've got to trust the organization to continue to draft properly and to use the money properly in free agency, and it turned around. Houston's done the same thing. They were cycling through coaches every 12 months over there in Houston. And they weren't winning any games, but they've hit on draft picks. And they got the right coach in there who instilled the right mindset in the organization, and they're starting to see the other side of it. It's not a quick fix. This is not going to be a 5-win team to a 14-win team because you got the right guy next year. This is going to be a process, and that's what you have to understand if you're the Saints here. So does it look great right now that they don't have a coach? No. Is it the end of the world? It's not. Who's to say Joe Brady was ready for this? Who's to say Mike McCarthy, who's been a perennial playoff coach for the last 15 years, is ready to come in and take some lumps? Who's to say Kellen Moore can't do it? Who's to say Anthony Weaver's not the right guy to be what Dan Campbell was in Detroit? Right now, I'm not. So I feel like while this is a very, very soft take, a cool take, if you will, I feel like everybody else is jumping on the sizzling hot take. So I'm actually kind of zigging when everyone zags. Just let's see how it works. Let's see what the result is. The process doesn't look great, but that's not the most important thing. So we'll see what happens when the Saints meet with Kellen Moore. He's going to be a little bit busy. You got a little bit more flexibility with Mike McCarthy, who's out of a job, with Anthony Weaver, whose team's been done for a month. You got time with Mike Kafka. There's a report out there that he wants to bring Wink Martindale, and all that is important. before I jump down the Saints' throat or go nuts about what's going on right now, let's just be patient. I talked to you on Friday, and I said the Saints are in a pretty good spot because everybody else is kind of butting theirs up. The Saints' prime candidates have only been whittled down by one. That's Aaron Glenn. Okay, let's see. There are no sure things in a coaching hire. And candidly, most of them don't work. Most head coaching hires in the NFL don't work. It's very rare to have a coach that sticks for 8-10 years, is a perennial playoff team, wins a Super Bowl. That doesn't happen very often. Mike Tomlin's the outlier. Sean McVay right now is the outlier. Andy Reid's very much the outlier. Fact is that most of the time, you cycle through another one in 3 or 4 years. And it feels like if you're betting, that's where the Saints will be because of the state of the organization. But you've got to try to find that next guy. And you don't have to rush to it because everybody on the internet says that you're striking out. That's kind of where you are. So we'll let this play out. I told you last week, I thought if the Saints made a head coaching hire last week, it would be Aaron Glenn. If they did not, it would be Joe Brady. Feels like that's wrong. Now, I'll give you my Monday statement for Friday's week. I think the Saints will have a head coach by Friday. I think they're going to interview 4 or 5 guys this week. I think during that interview process, they'll understand where they are and who that one is going to be. And I think by Friday, you got somebody at the podium. That's my guess. And I'll react accordingly. If all the guys on this list turn the Saints down, okay, we can start to ease towards that panic button. But just because Joe Brady said I'm good coaching Josh Allen doesn't mean the Saints organization is doomed for half a decade. We'll see. That's our Genesis opening drive. Every car on the lot online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. We come back. LSU goes to Alabama. Football player made the play of the day, but it came up short. I'll give you my thoughts on LSU's loss in Coleman Coliseum. That's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com is the website. Quite simply put, they're experts in the coverage part of insurance. There are a lot of folks, a lot of companies that will try to win on price in the insurance game. And you can play that game if you want. Highland Insurance Group's not going to be a magic bullet for you on price. What they are going to do is analyze your policies, understand where you need to be placed. They're an independent broker. That means they've got access to dozens of markets for all of your commercial lines of insurance. And they can make sure you're placed in the right place with the right coverages. You need to make sure your limits are right. Make sure all your coverages line up with what you're actually doing. If you haven't given that a lot of time because you just flip to the back page of the proposal and point to the premium, maybe take a different approach. Because once that event happens, once that claim happens, and you're not covered, it's a bad, bad place to be. The Highland Insurance Group can help you make sure that doesn't happen. Go to highlandig.com, chat with Jonathan Carbo and his team. You'll see what makes them a wonderful group to do business with. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Talk about the NFL Conference Championship games coming up here in a few minutes, plus my thoughts on LSU baseball over the weekend. Got out to see their scrimmage yesterday. If you want to read about the scrimmage, you can at louisianasports.net. Click on the LSU tab, and it'll be right there for you to take in. They played 5 innings yesterday. It was one of those deals yesterday, and I'll get into this in about 30 minutes, where the guys that we expect to pitch high leverage innings for LSU pitched on Friday and Saturday, and Sunday was kind of the lower end of the pitching staff. So not a lot of big names out there, but some interesting things that I took away as well. So we'll talk about that in about half an hour. Weird game in Tuscaloosa on Saturday between LSU and Alabama. Beck and I were conversing on Friday about what we thought the point spread would be because it doesn't come out until game day, and I kind of thought it would be upward, like pushing 20. It turned out it was 17.5. And LSU easily covered that. LSU only lost the game by 7 points. And what I wrote on louisianasports.net after the game was over was like, LSU fought hard. They played tough. They were physical. They never really threatened to win the game. I mean, let me look at the scoring. LSU never really got close. I mean, they were within 5 with 4 minutes to go, but then immediately Alabama went on a 7-0 run that made it 13. So 8-0 run to make it 13. So, I mean, you're down 13 with 2.5 minutes to go. You're not going to win that game. But they played tough, and that's not going to be good enough at LSU. Like, this is not a moral victory spot. What I will say about it is if they play like that, and what I mean by play like that, I mean get on the backboards. Corey Chest was an animal on the glass. He goes out there and gets 18 rebounds, 9 on the offensive end. LSU got 17 offensive rebounds and won the rebounding battle. The turnovers weren't a disaster. They turned it over 14 times, but you're talking about playing against the fastest team in college basketball. You extrapolate that out, you probably played 6 or 7, 8 extra possessions, and maybe that's closer to like a 12 turnover game. That's not the end of the world. Alabama took LSU's turnovers and scored 14 points off them. Like, that's not great, but it's not a disaster. And you saw Jordan Sears score some points. He scored 21 points and helped out Cam Carter. That's really LSU's only punch. Try to take care of the ball a little bit better. You've got to rebound better than you have. You need another player to step up and score some points in Cam Carter's stead.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hardy fiber cement siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardy siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardy.com.
And that's your chance to stay in games. And they did that. They played good defense. They held Alabama to 80 points. That's the highest scoring team in college basketball. They're frequently scoring 100 points. In fact, they've scored 100 points more than any team in 75 years. So it was a solid effort that, if it's replicated, can produce some wins down the road. But here is a bugaboo that is no longer like, they need to get a little better. They're just bad at it, and it's a disaster. They can't shoot the three. They're the worst three-point shooting team in the SEC, and they went 3 of 23 from three-point range in this game. You're just not going to beat anybody if you go 3 for 23 from three-point range, especially considering the fact you don't have anybody in the front court who you can throw it down to and initiate offense. So you have to do your scoring from the perimeter. And when Cam Carter goes 1 of 7 and Jordan Sears goes 1 of 6 and Mike Williams goes 1 of 6, and those are your main 3 guards, you're talking about making 3 out of 19 threes. It's just a loser. If you shot 6 for 23, which I don't even know what that percentage is, but I'll type it up, 6 for 23 is not even that good. You're talking about 26%. You shoot 26%, you're within a bucket in this game. And they just haven't been able to do it. Jordan Sears was a 42% three-point shooter at Tennessee Martin. That's excellent. He's about a 30% shooter at LSU. He's 12 points worse than he was at the mid-major level. And I get that. It's a faster game. You got bigger guards. He's a smaller player. It all makes sense, but you had to hope that he was going to be, and I don't mean to bang on Jordan Sears here. The guy scored 21 points. He made all 6 of his free throws. He dished out 6 assists. He played 29 minutes. He was plus 10 in the game. So this is far from a Jordan Sears is LSU's problem segment. He was awesome on Saturday against a really good team. But in a game where Cam Carter has to take 19 shots to score 17 points, like, you're just not going to be efficient enough on offense to get it done. And Chess tried with the offensive rebounds, and you got 14 second chance points. You had 6 dunks. You scored 40 points in the paint. I mean, LSU won a lot of statistics in the game. LSU made more field goals than Alabama, got more field goals up than Alabama. They out-rebounded Alabama. They had 17 offensive rebounds to Bama's 11. They had more second chance points. They had more paint points. Fast breaks were a wash. LSU had more steals. Like, they played Alabama fairly straight up, but you shot it so poorly it didn't matter. And ultimately, you only scored 33 points in the second half. And I will go out on a limb, and I will say that no one is going to score 33 points in a half against Alabama and beat them. They're too good on offense. Now, I can't just leave this segment alone without getting to, and to use a bad pun accidentally, but it just popped into my head, the elephant in the room for Alabama. Mark Sears didn't play in the second half. And to me, I'm not in the locker room. I watched Nate Oates' post-game press conference where he was asked about it and said, yeah, we played the guys we thought gave us the best chance to win. To me, and I'm trying to read this from afar, he said, yeah, Sears is our best player. He's our heartbeat. He's not playing well. He's 0 of 5 from the floor. He's turned it over twice. And I can beat LSU without him, and I'm just going to send a message. That's what it felt like to me. Said, this is one of the spots at home against that team. I can sit him, drive home the fact that I don't like the way he's playing, and we'll still win the game. And they did. And like I was watching every dribble of the game. I didn't see anything that Mark Sears did that warranted him sitting the entire second half. He missed some shots and turned the ball over a couple times, but it wasn't like he got a technical for shoving somebody or didn't get back on defense. I don't really know what the issue was, and I certainly don't know if there was anything leading up to that would suggest that he needed to sit. But Mark Sears is he's up there with Janai Broome is probably the player of the year in the league, and for him to sit 20 minutes is a big deal in this game, and I certainly can't tell the story of this game without bringing that up. But if you're LSU, you hope the guys keep fighting because they really did fight in this game. They just didn't have enough from a shooting perspective to keep up and to elevate all the other things that they did really well. And that's a bummer because that's something you'd really like to have. The other piece to this that was certainly very interesting to everybody is that Trey'Dez Green did get out there and play some hoops for the first time in his collegiate career. What a spot to bring him into in Tuscaloosa against a top 5 team in the country. And it's crazy to me. One thing that was nuts was seeing how thin Trey'Dez Green looks on the football field. Look how slender he looks at the tight end position. And then seeing him go out on the basketball floor and he looks like Adonis. He's the biggest, most physical guy out there in the basketball side of things. But on the football side, you're like, man, he really needs to put some weight on. But he played hard. He was physical. LSU needs a physical presence with Jalen Reed out. You're talking about Damon Collins, who is 20 pounds lighter than Trey'Dez Green. Derek Fountain's not really a physical presence down there. Chess tries, but he's only 6'7", 6'8", like Trey'Dez Green. So he showed his athleticism. He got 3 rebounds. Of course, he made the highlight play of the game when he closed out on the three-point shooter, blocked the shot, picked it up on the bounce, and ran it out and slammed it. He's a freak of an athlete. I mean, just an absolute freak of an athlete. And so I wrote a piece on LouisianaSports.net today. I was like, how much can he help? And here are my thoughts on it. He can help. He's big enough and physical enough to rebound and help block shots. And LSU needs that because they don't have enough of that right now. They get beat on the glass quite frequently, and they don't protect the rim as well as they did in the non-conference against these lesser teams. And Trey'Dez Green can do some of that. That's stuff that doesn't take a lot of coaching and teaching. Offense, especially in LSU's system, does take time. LSU does not often come down the floor. They do this some, but not often come down the floor and get into a you go here, you go here, you go here set. They do it some, but not a lot. Most of LSU's offense is predicated on spreading the floor out, creating driving lanes, and using the floor spacing to dictate what you need to do next. You'll often see after LSU kind of tries something, they'll pull it back out. One of the offside post guy will come up and set a high screen and roll. Whoever's got the ball will try to make something happen, and that's all playing off of one another. And that takes time. And these guys have been doing it since June, and Trey'Dez Green has been doing it for 3 weeks. So offensively, while I do think Trey'Dez has probably more skill than you may imagine a big hulking tight end has on the basketball court. He scored 27 a game, and it wasn't all just dunks in his high school days, although a lot of it was being the best athlete on the floor. you've got to get into a little bit of a rhythm to play in this offensive system, and that may take a little bit of time. But the fact of the matter is that LSU needs Trey'Dez Green's 5 fouls. They need his rebounding ability. They need his athleticism. They need his physicality. So he played 9 minutes in the game on Saturday. I would anticipate that number will hover around that point and kind of get north of 15 minutes here and there. Depending on kind of how foul trouble goes. LSU didn't get into a ton of foul trouble in this game. Cam Carter is the only guy who got to 4 fouls. So that's a situation where at times Damian Collins may pick up a second foul. At times, you may decide you want to go to Trey'Dez Green if Corey Chest is in foul trouble. So it's he can help. It's not going to be this massive influx of scoring. He's not going to average 16 a game over the last 2 weeks of the season. But in a league that's really big and really athletic, Trey'Dez Green is really athletic and strong for this sport. And I think he can help. And I think that Matt McMahon will go to him at some point. So look, again, nobody gives a rip around here about moral victories with an LSU sporting event. And at this point, you can't speak to the program developing because there is no program. I don't know if any of these guys are on the team next year. I would guess Trey'Dez Green will be in school next year at LSU. Will he play basketball? I have no idea. And so you can't talk about building a program. It's just about this team. And this team right now is fighting it. They're outmanned just about every time they go out there. They're going to be big time outmanned on Wednesday in their own building. But they played tough, they fought hard, and they gave themselves a chance against a top 5 team in the country on the road. They were tied at halftime within 5 with 5 minutes to play, but they didn't shoot it good enough to get to the finish line. So you lose another ball game, and you're going to be a big dog coming up against Auburn coming up on Wednesday. So we'll talk about that one in a couple of days. But just a weird game. I candidly expected LSU to get beat by 25, 30 points in this game. They did not. It was weird to see Mark Sears sit on the bench the entire second half. It was surprising to me to see Trey'Dez Green play as much as he did. It was encouraging to see Jordan Sears score some points. It was great to see LSU work on the glass. Corey Chest, 18 rebounds is incredible stuff. Just not enough against a really, really good Alabama basketball team. So we'll leave that in the rearview mirror for now, and we'll transition back to football. Jaden Daniels' miraculous rookie season comes to an end. We'll talk about that in the Super Bowl matchup to come in New Orleans when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Nobody really likes maintenance on the car. Oftentimes, you got to go and sit in the service aisle, and it's kind of dirty and dingy, and you're wasting your time all morning long. When are they going to get to the car? It's just not a lot of fun. Well, they changed that at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It may not be the most fun in the world, but you don't have to worry about it because they're going to come to you. They're going to drop a car off to you. They'll take your car back to the dealership. They'll handle all the maintenance for 3 years. That's complimentary because of the purchase at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They'll deal with your air filters, oil changes, wiper fluids, all new wiper blades, all that. And they'll bring the car right back to you. So you don't waste your whole morning sitting there.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
What you're hearing is Hardy Fiber Cement Siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardy knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardy products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardy.
It's a beautiful thing. It's part of the convenience of being a Genesis driver. If you've never seen the dealership, not sure where it is, well, it's on Airline right by Piku, right there across from Women's Hospital. Give them a try. Get on by, get behind the wheel, work with their team. Brand ambassadors are fantastic to work with, and they'll get you behind the wheel of a Genesis. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Magical season for Jaden Daniels comes to an end in the NFC Championship game. The Eagles hammer the Commanders in the fourth quarter, 21-0 in the fourth, and they run away 55-23 to reach their third Super Bowl in, I believe, 7 years, which has been quite a run there up in Philly. Washington has not tasted this type of success in a long, long time, and they got a taste. It was an incredible season. They won 12 regular season games, went on the road and beat Tampa, went on the road to the 1 seed and beat the Detroit Lions, and we're right there in this game with Philly. I mean, you're talking about a halftime score of 27-15, and you get a stop, and you've got an opportunity to draw within a score, but they just couldn't quite get over the hump. And ultimately, this game comes down to really one thing, and it sucks, and it's the coin that they were on the right side of a week prior and the wrong side of this week. You cannot turn the ball over 4 times and win in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen, especially when you're on the road, especially when you have a lesser roster. And that's not earth-shattering analysis by me. I did not tell you anything you didn't already know if you were watching that game, but it remains the number one point that I have to make in analyzing this game. You can't just keep fumbling the ball and win. And then you go for a 4th down there late and can't get it, and then Jaden's finally picked there at the end. The play of the day was clearly outside of the fumbles. The 4th down, when Washington looks like they're going to get a stop, and Jalen Hurts drops it absolutely in the bucket to A.J. Brown down the left sideline. Just a big-time play by a quarterback that wins a ton of football games, and that allowed Philadelphia to continue with its momentum, put more points on the board, and keep Washington at an arm's length until they could finally pull away. As far as Jaden goes, I thought he did what he could do. He throws for 255 and a score. He carried it 6 times for 48 yards and a score. The interception was late, kind of in desperation time. I thought he did everything he could do, and his teammates really let him down by just simply dropping the football. You can't drop kickoff returns. You can't drop the ball in the middle of the field, Austin Eckler, when you're trying to get up when catching a pass. It was just crippling mistakes that Washington continued to make, and they're just not good enough to go on the road and withstand that. And ultimately, Philadelphia ran the ball exceptionally well, 229 yards on the ground. The first play of the game sets the tone for Philadelphia offensively, with Saquon going 60 yards for a touchdown. You knew that was going to be a problem. We gave you that statistic back on Friday about how Saquon had busted 3 really long runs for touchdowns on Washington. But other than that, they had really done a good job of bottling him up and limiting him to 2 yards or less. But they couldn't do that in the game on Sunday afternoon. Saquon averages 8 yards a carry with that 60-yarder. Will Shipley had a 57-yarder. Jalen Hurts got in the mix and ran for 3 touchdowns. You had the crazy goings-on at the goal line with the tush-push situation that we're going to award teams points for jumping off sides. That was all a little bit comical to me. It seems like that's not exactly what we're trying to accomplish with the sport of football, but Philly's made an identity out of it, and they're good at it, and Buffalo's not, which we can talk about here in a second. The other kind of piece to this game that I want to briefly discuss, because I just thought it blows my mind, quite honestly, is why all of these I can get on board with the 4th downs. I don't love it all the time, but Washington ended up way more on the good for the season going for these 4th downs and eschewing field goals than they did if they just kicked field goals. They paid those off time and time and time again. The 2-point conversions are asinine. It's absolutely ridiculous to me that we're trying to go for 2 in the first quarter to get to a certain score. Like, if you want to tell me you're just going to go for 2 every time because you've got Jaden Daniels who completes 70% of his throws and he can run it in, I don't know that I agree with that, but I can understand that philosophy. If you're going to tell me you need to tie the game or get it to set these, and Sirianni was following suit right after that with Dan Quinn going for 2 in the first and second quarter. That doesn't make any sense. You go for 2 in the fourth quarter when you know how many possessions about are left and what it's going to take to either win or tie or whatever the case may be, or how many possessions you need to go ahead. Deciding to go for 2 up 8 to try to get it to 10 instead of 9 is ridiculous to me. 9 is really important. That's 2 scores up. Trying to make sure it's 10 because that's a touchdown and a field goal. I just thought that was ridiculous by these two guys, and they kept doubling down on it time and time again. I would, again, rather you just go for two every time as opposed to trying to tell me that in the first quarter, you know how many points you need to be ahead for what's to come 2.5 hours later. That just seems ridiculous to me to give away points like that, but it's been an aggressive mindset for Washington and Philadelphia from start to finish, and Philadelphia paid it off in the game. I thought they were the better team, and then Washington gave them some fortunate circumstances, and that allowed Philadelphia to make this game a laugher in the fourth quarter. Beck, I'm sure you were watching that. What was the biggest storyline for you in the NFC game?
Yeah, it's hard to not say the turnovers. I mean, it's that you can't expect to give a team like the Eagles 4 extra possessions and think that you're going to have a chance in the game, especially when the Commanders' defense just has not played well this pretty much this whole season, especially in the playoffs. They've kind of gotten by with a good enough offense. So it's tough, man. But we all thought this was going to happen eventually. Like they were early. Their team is not fully rounded out with good enough players on defense, and honestly, the offensive weapons are not really there. I mean, they've got one very good receiver and a few other that are solid, but they just need more weapons, and the defense needs to be better.
And look, candidly, I do not peruse the NFL salary cap situations often. I look at the Saints all the time because we cover them here, but I don't know how the Chargers are looking on the cap. Couldn't tell you. But I looked up Washington yesterday. And I can't swear this to the cent because it's complicated and there are different things that are going to happen over the course of an off season. But it appears to me that the Commanders have $90 million to spend under the cap. And when I consider that this time every single year, the Saints are $50 to $70 million over the cap, you realize how ridiculous that is.
The Saints are currently $50 million over, and the Commanders are 90 under.
That's what I'm saying. It's
third in the NFL.
$140 million you're talking about. And so the Commanders, who for years, a couple of decades, have been an awful landing spot for free agents because of the ineptitude in the organization and the toxicity at the top, now have a new ownership group, have a hotshot quarterback on a rookie deal, and $90 million to spend in free agency. It's reasonable to suggest that Washington could look a lot different and a lot better next year. They're attractive and they can be aggressive. That's an awesome spot to be in as an organization, and it just rings true to me how far the Saints are away from that.
Yeah, the Commanders need to begin becoming very aggressive now, because you've got $90 million right now, but in 4 years you're not going to have that, because you're going to have to give Jaden Daniels and a top 5 NFL
$400 million contract.
Yeah, it's going to have to be something absurd. So you've got to be aggressive right now. And the fact that the Saints is just
it just shook me when I looked that up yesterday, because I was writing a little thing for LouisianaSports.net about it was a great rookie season, like what's to come for Jaden, and I saw that number and I was like, that isn't even. I feel like I'm reading Chinese, because the Saints are always, the number's always bright red, and this is black. It's amazing. So, it's good spot for the Commanders, and a tough Sunday for them in the division. The Eagles will be on to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs beat the Bills by 3 in a phenomenal football game. And I'll be honest with y'all. I loved it. I know that everybody's pulling for the Bills. I know that everybody's sick of the Chiefs. Watching Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes trade haymakers in the second half yesterday was incredible theater. It was incredible. The throws Josh Allen's making for the touchdowns, fitting in those tight windows, the laser focus that he had. Mahomes actually using his legs, which we never see, because I guess usually at this point in the calendar, his ankle's falling apart, so he's got to sit there with a big tape on his ankle and throw it around, but he was making plays when he had to. And the Chiefs just did what they do. It's not an unsustainable formula. It's not fluky. They are so good on defense. Their quarterback makes such good decisions that they're going to be very difficult to beat in the fourth quarter of games. And once again, they were very difficult to beat in the fourth quarter of a game. Certainly, I would like Dalton Kincaid to catch that ball that Josh Allen chucked up to him on the fourth down. I think that's one he catches absolutely 8 out of 10 times. It was a floater that he completely got under. It hit him in both forearms. I know it's cold. I know he's diving. I know it's a pressure play.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I think he can catch that ball. And the fact that Josh Allen got that ball to him is one of the most athletic plays I think I've ever seen a quarterback make. James Cook made one of the most athletic things I've ever seen a running back make, staying airborne on that fourth down to get into the end zone for the touchdown. But Josh Allen getting that corner blitz on fourth down, evading it, backing up against his momentum, winging it down the field to an open receiver who was able to make a play on the ball. I don't think there are 4 quarterbacks in the NFL that could have made that play. Mahomes maybe has the arm strength to do it. Herbert maybe has the arm strength to do it. I mean, who am I missing at that point of guys that can throw it off their back foot 35 yards in the air, 40 yards in the air to a receiver that can make a play on it?
Probably, you could say maybe Anthony Richardson because his arm is just absurd.
Not a terrible
It may
thought.
not be accurate.
but
Burrow
Burrow can't make that play. Hurts can't make that play. C.J. Stroud can't make that play.
Yeah.
There just aren't that many guys that can – Jaden certainly can't make that play, that can get that much on that ball, but he did it, and I feel horrible for Josh Allen.
I was texting some guys. I was like, man, you see they showed Josh Allen on the sideline while the Chiefs were kneeling the ball to finish out the game, and he just has this face of dejection, and he's just got to be thinking to himself, if it weren't for 15 and 87 and Andy Reid, I'd probably have 2 or 3 rings right now. It's just unbelievable.
It's Barkley vibes. It's like Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els stuff from their time. It's you're just in the wrong point in time.
Yep.
And it's Peyton Manning managed to climb it eventually over Brady, and you feel like Josh Allen's not done. He's still, but the fact that I didn't know for sure, I looked this up yesterday. Patrick Mahomes is going to play 3 games next year in his 20s. He doesn't turn 30 until late September of next year. So you feel like he's still got, I'll be conservative, 6 really good years till he's 35. I think he can play quarterback at 35.
It feels like Josh Allen is way younger than Patrick Mahomes. He's only a year younger than him. So they're almost in the exact same spot in their careers.
They both may have 9 or 10 years left, but they both certainly got 6 years of really playing at a high level left. And now sign me up for it. I'm good with it.
The only thing I think that may become a factor is whether or not Travis Kelce and Andy Reid stay. Andy Reid may want to retire if he gets
a lot of smoke
knows?
around Kelce.
Yeah, and Kelce as well. So, but we have seen though the constant has been Reid and Mahomes. There have been, and Kelce of course, but there's been revolving receivers. The defense has been different, but they just keep. This is
the year you knew they were all going to be there because they're trying to do something no one's ever done.
Yeah.
If they win in 2 weeks, you may see some sunset riding.
Andy
Reid. There are a lot of Hawaiian shirts and cheeseburgers left for Andy Reid to be eaten, and there's some things apparently that Travis Kelce may be able to get into outside of football.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll see how all that goes. But I thought a good day of football. Certainly the fourth quarter of the NFC game got away from Washington, but it was an entertaining game for 3 quarters, and then just a classic, I thought, between the Chiefs and Bills. And I'm okay with the Chiefs winning. They're great to watch to me. I think Mahomes is awesome, and I don't have a dog in that fight. So it was an awesome game. I was hoping the Bills would win. I think that would have been better for New Orleans. But hey, a 3-peat's not a bad storyline to have down here either. So we'll see how all that goes. When we come back, I spent yesterday out at the box. What did I see? We'll let you know next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Tub-to-shower conversions, tub-to-shower conversions, tub-to-shower conversions. They do them all the time. If you've got a big bathtub that's either old and dingy, or maybe it's one of those 90s bathtubs with all the jacuzzis in them and you never use it, take it out. That's a lot of room that you're not using. You could put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower, change the aesthetic of your bathroom, change the functionality of your bathroom, add a little value to your home, just make things look a little nicer. David Vaughn and his team are happy to help you with it. If you want some pictures of their great work, go to onebathandclosets.com. You will see all the pictures of their great work right there, and you can get the free consultation right there on the homepage. David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Mitchell Fisher at Audio Video Security Solutions. All your audio video security needs, they got you covered at Audio Video Security Solutions. You can check them out online at avssla.com, whether it's your audio surround sound entertainment system at home, whether it's your outdoor audio system. If you want to hang a TV outside, spend some time out there in the spring, they can handle that for you at AVSS. And of course, your security systems, cameras, app, burglar alarm, all that, they can do it as well. Great local company, Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com. Kind of worked myself into a tight window here at the end of the hour to talk a little bit of baseball, but I'll get to what I saw yesterday. As we would expect, Stephen Milam and Michael Braswell are splitting time at shortstop and third base, so much so that they're playing on the same team and they're switching positions halfway through each scrimmage. We saw them do that a few times over the weekend, certainly on Sunday when I was there. They played the first 2 innings. It was Milam at short, Braswell at third, and then they flip-flopped later on, and Milam made one poor throw from shortstop. Jared Jones picked it out. Braswell made a nice play over at third base, showed some range to his left, made a nice play across the diamond. Defense was not good for LSU yesterday, kind of expected in January, quite frankly. Jared Jones mishandled 2 ground balls that were hit pretty sharply. Cade Arambidi at catcher hopped up and threw one down into threw a bunt down into right field. Just kind of some sloppy defensive stuff. I thought from a pitching perspective, Cooper Williams, the freshman left-hander they got, who was initially committed to Texas A&M, Schlossnagle left, and he reopened things and decided to come to LSU. I liked what I saw from him yesterday. Threw a lot of strikes. Fastball was 90 to 93 from the left side. Delivery looks good, so I liked what I saw from Cooper Williams. I mentioned this earlier in the hour. It was the bottom tier of the staff right now as far as expected innings. You saw Cade Woods, saw Dalton Beck, who's a two-way guy from Incarnate Word that pitched a little bit. Dylan Thompson pitched, and then Cooper Williams, as I mentioned. None of those guys right now figure into some really high leverage spots for LSU. It's kind of the lower end of the pitching staff. Saw Tanner Reeves have a big swing, hit a home run to right field. That was good to see. I thought Cade Arambidi had 2 great at-bats yesterday. He had a missile of a line drive. He hit to center field at 107 miles per hour, which was encouraging. He also hit a towering double to left center field that one-hopped the wall. He's had a great offensive first few months at LSU. He had about 360 in the spring and has obviously started off pretty well here. In the fall, and it started off pretty well here in the preseason. His defense needs some work. He had some wild pitches that got by him yesterday, and I mentioned through that bunt down into right field. He's a talented defender, but he's not a polished defender at this point. He is a good hitter. He's hitting like crazy right now, so I think he very much factors into the catcher discussion. Luis Hernandez is very much in that mix as well, and I think is probably the leader right now to be the primary catcher, but there's a long way to go before we get to opening day and certainly to SEC play. So that I enjoyed. Chris Stanfield is a name from Auburn. He was their starting center fielder the majority of last year. He's played really good defense in center field since he got to LSU, and I thought had a couple really nice at-bats in the game on Sunday. He put down a suicide squeeze on a pitch that was way down, and he got it out there and deadened it, which showed some real hand-eye coordination, and then he ripped a single into left field. It was a hard ground ball that got into left field. I think right now he feels like has a good chance to be the starting center fielder. That's certainly not decided. There are some guys that may have something to say about that. Derek Curiel may have something to say about that. Certainly Jake Brown's played a lot of center field in his time. Curiel played left yesterday, and Brown DH'd, but there's a lot of competition in the outfield right now for LSU baseball, and Stanfield had a good day on Sunday. I think that was kind of it, big picture from what we saw. They've still got 3 weeks to get things ironed out. Tomorrow on LouisianaSports.net, I'm going to start a position preview series. So if you're interested in baseball, hadn't checked out our stuff on LouisianaSports.net just yet, Please check it out starting tomorrow. I'll have a breakdown of the catcher position, and we'll kind of move through the diamond over the next 11 days or so. So that'll all be coming up on LouisianaSports.net. Shout out to our friends at Gulf Coast Office Products for all your printing, scanning, copying needs. GCOPnet.com. GCOPnet.com. Shout out to our guy, Trey Beal. Looking for printer, scanner, copier, no better spot in the state of Louisiana than Gulf Coast Office Products. They bring you our Monday shows each and every week. We got a lot to get to. In hour number 2, we'll step aside from SportsCenter and get to it. And that's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Call Jonathan Carbo and his team, whether it's property and casualty insurance for your business or potentially it is group or employee benefits. They handle those as well. Highland Insurance Group is an independent agency, small local agency. Customer service there is going to be second to none, and their expertise in the insurance game is fantastic. I had a great conversation with them a couple of weeks ago. They were discussing kind of how they win their business. And oftentimes, if you allow them to look at your insurance policy, go ahead and black out the premium if you want. They don't really care about that. They want to make sure your coverages are what they need to be. And if they're not, they'll let you know about it. You're going to want to make that switch and let Highland Insurance Group be your broker. You should trust your insurance broker like you trust your attorney, like your CPA. You can trust the folks at the Highland Insurance Group for your property and casualty insurance or your group and employee benefits. They're right here in Baton Rouge. You can check them out online at HighlandIG.com. Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.